Good morning, good morning, good morning, and thank you for joining me today. For today's tale is The Exile of the Sons of Usnech. The Exile of the Sons of Usnech is one of the best-known ancient Irish sagas. It is also one of the few stories of the Ulster cycle that have been preserved on the lips of the folk down to modern times. Versions composed as early as the 8th or 9th century existed in many medieval manuscripts, and variants of the story are still to be heard in remote countryside districts of Ireland and Scotland. Folk versions of the story have become especially popular in the Gaelic-speaking districts of Scotland, and a fact perhaps due to the contemporary references to Scotland in certain forms of the narrative. The Exile of the Sons of Usnech owes the popularity to the fact that it tells a tragic love story of the beautiful but ill-starred Deirdre and Helen ancient Irish tradition, fated from birth to bring misfortune to others. This primitive epic woman flees from the court of the elderly and eunuch's King Concobar with the handsome young Nazi, one of the three sons of Usnech, now only to involve himself into her lover and his brothers in sorrow and despair. Though not so well known as her Greek counterpart Deirdre, still deserves to rank as one of the great tragic heroines of literature. As regards the connection with the Ulster cycle, this tale explains how Dr. Fergus MacRoyd, Concobar's son Cormac, and other Ulstermen are awry among the forces of Connacht in, the traditional enemy of their own native province, during the Cattle Raid of Cooley. In revenge for the murder of the sons of Usnech, Fergus, Cormac, and Cormac slay many fellow tribesmen and will betake themselves and 3,000 followers to the court of Al and Mav, Connacht, who they assist on the Cattle Raid of Cooley and, other raids upon Ulster. The Deirdre story is the theme of several recent Anglo-Irish dramas, notably J.M. Siggy's Deirdre of the Sorrows. You might want to look that up if you want a really great movie. In the house of Firmin, son Dal, who was, the narrator of the stories of Concobar and the King of Ulster, and the men of Ulster sat at their ale, and before the men in order attended upon them, stood the wife of Firmin. She was great with child. Round about the board and went drinking horns, portions of food, and revellers shouted in their drunken mirth. And when the men desired to lay themselves down to sleep, the woman also went to her couch, and as she passed through the midst of the house, the child cried out in her womb, so that its shriek was heard throughout the whole house, and throughout the outer court that lay about it. And the shriek, all men sprang up, and head to head they thronged together in the house, whereupon Scourge El rebuked them. "Let none of you stir," cried he, "and let the woman be brought before us, that he may learn what is the meaning of this cry." They brought the woman before them, and thus spoke to her Firmin, her husband. "What is that? All the cries in the far first, in the womb raging loudly? Though the ears thou protest with clamour, with the scream from the side swollen strong of woe, for the cry of foreboding into my heart, that is torn through the terror and sore with grief." Then the woman turned and approached Catbert the Druid, for he was a man of knowledge, and thus she spoke to him. "Give thou my ear, Concobar, thou fair one of face, thou great crown of honour and the royal in the family. Let the man so exalted be still higher. Let the Druid draw knowledge the Druids can obtain, for I want words of wisdom, and none can I express. Nor to Firmin a torch of such knowledge can stretch, as thy woman knows that what she bears. I know not the cry that sounds from forth within me. And then said Cathpan the Druid, it is a maid who screamed wildly just now. Far and curling locks shall flow around her, blue-centered and stately her eyes, and her cheeks shall glow like the foxglove. For the tint of her skin we command her, in its wistfulness newly fallen like snow. And her teeth are flauntless and slender, and her lips are red like coal. A fair woman is she for whom houses that fight, and in their chariots of Ulster shall be doomed to death. It is woman who hath given the shriek, golden-haired with long tresses and tall. For those love-made chiefs shall strive, and great kings shall ask for her favours. To the west she shall hasten, belugging the great host that shall march up from Ulster. Red as coral, her lips shall be smiling, as they reveal her teeth white as pearls. The woman is fair, and great queen shall be fawn of form and flauntless unfollowed. Then Concobar laid his hand upon the woman, and the little child cried out beneath his hands. Aye, indeed, he said, 'tis the woman child who is here. Deirdre shall be her name, and evil shall come from her. Now, some days after the girl child was born, and then thus sang. O Deirdre, thou art the gentlest cause of rule, though famous and fair and pale, before Firmin's daughter shall part from life, all Ulster shall wail her deeds. Yes, mischief shall come in the after time. Thou fair shining maid, on thine account, hear ye thus, Ulster's sons, the three noble chiefs shall be forced into banishment, while thou art in life, shall a fierce royal deed be done in Enmar, though later yet it shall mourn, it refuse to heed the God of Rock's powerful son. O noble lady, it is through thy fault that Fergus to exile flee, that a son of King Cocumbar shall be in sorrow when Falchina is injured and dies. O noble lady, thy guilt is all thine. Gildred, son of Ildan, is slain, and when Egan MacDochic's great life is destroyed, naught less shall be found our sorrow. O great deed shalt thou do, and shalt be in anger against the king, glorious Ulster. In whatever place men shall dig thee, thy little grave of Deirdre, they long shall sing. Let the maiden be slain, cried out younger men of Ulster. Not so, said Concobar. Let her in the morning be brought to me, and she shall reared according to my will, and she'll be my wife, and in my companionship shall she be. The men of Ulster will not so hardy as to turn from him in his purpose, and thus it was done. The maiden was reared according to Concobar's will, and she grew up to be the fairest maid in all of Erin. She was brought up in the house apart, so that none of the men of Ulster might see her, till the time came when she should sleep with Concobar. None of mankind was permitted to enter the house where she reared, save only her foster father and her foster mother. And in addition to these, Lebanon Cham, who no not saw it, could be refused, for she was a woman satirist. Now, it is chanced upon a certain day in the time of winter that the foster father of Deirdre was outside the house skinning a calf. In order to cook it for her, the blood of the calf lay upon the snow, and she saw a black raven, which came down to drink it. Libercham, said Deirdre, that man only will I love, who has the three colors that I see yonder. His hair as black as the raven, his cheeks red like blood, and his body white as snow. Blessing and fortune to thee, said Liberpum. That man is not far away. He is yonder in the stronghold of Emenmacha, which is nigh, and the name of him is Nasi, son of Usnech. I shall never be in good health again, said Deirdre, until the time comes when I might see him. It befell that Nathi was upon a certain day upon rampart in the stronghold of Emin, when he uttered his musical warrior cry. Well did the music ring out that sang the sons of Usnech. Each cow and every beast heard them give 2/3 more milk than its worth, and each man of whom by that heard the cry, deemed it to be sufficiency to pleasure himself. Godly, moreover, was his ply that these men made their weapons of whole province of Ulster had been assembled together against them in one place, and the three only had been able to set their backs against one another. The men of Ulster would not have borne away victory from those three. So well were they skilled in parley and defence, and they were swift of foot when they heeded the game. And with them this is custom to catch their quarry by swiftness on foot alone. Now, while this Nesse was alone on the rampart, Deirdre also soon escaped outside her house to him. And she ran past him, and at first he not knew who she might be. Fair is a young heifer that springs past me, he cried. Well, may the young heifers be great, she said, in a palace where no bulls are. Thou hast as thy bull, he said. The bull of whom the home province of Ulster, even Concobar the king of Ulster. I would choose between you two, she said, and I would take for myself a younger bull, even such as thou art. Not so indeed, said Nesse, for I fear the prophecy of Cathbad. Sayest thou this meaning and refuse me, she said. Aye, indeed, he said. And they sprang upon him and seized him by the arm and 2 ears. 2 ears of shame, and the mockery shalt thou have, she cried. And if thou take me not with thee, release me, woman, he said. That will I not. Then Nilsi raised his musical warrior cry, and the Ustermen heard it. And each of them sprang up, and the sons of Usnech hurried out to their brother. What is it, they said, that thou dost? Let it not be any fault of thine that the war stirred up between us and the men of Ulster. Then he told them all that he had done. There shall be evil upon thee from this. Moreover, thou shalt lie under the reproach of shame as long as thou dost live, but will go to her in another land, and there is no king in all of Ireland who will refuse us welcome if we come to him. Then they took counsel together, and that same night they departed, 3 times 50 warriors, and 3 times 50 women, and dogs and servants, and Deirdre with them. For a long time they wandered about Ireland, and the visitors and the chieftains of that, and often the Conchobar sought to slay him, either by Amascot or by treachery, found round about Elsrod near Bay Shannon in the west. They journeyed, and they turned them back to Bon Eri in the northeast, which the men today call the Hill of Hoth. Nevertheless, the men of Ulster drove them from the land, and then they came to the land of Alba, Scotland. In the wilderness they dwelt, and where they chased the wild beasts of the mountain and fouled them, and they made rains upon the cattle and the men of Alba. They took him for himself, and the men of Alba gathered themselves together with intent to destroy them. Then they took shelter with the king of Alba, and the king took them into his following, and they served him in war. And they made for themselves houses of their own on the green of the king of Alba's stronghold. It was on account of Deirdre that these houses were made, and they feared the men might see her, and that on her account they might be slain. Now, one day the high steward of the king of Alba went into the early morning, and he took a turn about Nisi's house, and saw Nisi and Deirdre sleeping therein. He hurried back to the king to wake him. Up to this day, he said, we have found no wife for thee fit for thyself. Nisi, son of Usnech, has a wife, were sufficient of the empire and western worlds. Let Nisi be slain, and let the woman sleep with thee. Are we seeing a theme in most of the Irish ancient tales? Just saying. Not so, said the king, but do thou each day and go to her house and woo her for me secretly. This was done, but Deirdre, whatever the steward told her, used straightway to recount it each evening to her husband. And since nothing was obtained from her, the sons of Usnech were sent into dangers and into wars and strifes, thereby they might be slain. Nevertheless, they showed themselves to be stout in every strife, and the king gave no advantage from by such attempts as these. The men of Alba were gathered together to destroy the sons of Usnech, and also was told to Deirdre. And she told them her news to Nelsa, depart hence, for if you depart not this night, upon the morrow you will be slain. And they departed that night, and they took themselves to an island on the sea. Now the news of what had passed was brought to the men of Ulster. It's pity, O Conchobar, they say, that the sons of Usnech should die in the land of their enemies for the sake of an evil woman. It is better that they should come under thy protection, and that they should come into their own land, rather than they should fall at the hands of the foes. Let them come to us then, said Conchobar. Let men go as sureties to them. The news was brought to them. This is welcome news for us, they said. We will indeed come, and let Fergus come as our surety, and Dubric and Cormac, the son of Conchobar. These then went with them, and they moved past and over the sea. But at the investigation of Conchobar, Fergus pressed the journey in the ale feast, whilst the sons of Usnech were pledged to eat no food in Erin, until they had eaten the food of Conchobar in Emma. So Fergus with Donald and Cormac tattered behind. The sons of Usnech went on, accompanied by Fergus' son, until they came to the fair green before Emmen. Now at that time Ergin's son Dura, king of Forlan, had come to Ammon to make his peace with Concobar. For they'd for a long time been at enmity, and to him and a certain mercenaries of Concobar, the charge was given that they should slay the sons of Usnech. The sons of Usnech stood upon the fair green of Ammon, and the women were sitting upon the ramparts of Ammon Maga. And Ergin came to the band of mercenaries across the meadow. And the son of Fergus took his place by Ness's side, and Ergin greeted him with a mighty thrust of his spear. And the spear broke Ness's back and passed through it. The son of Fergus made a spring, and then he threw both arms around Nessie, and he brought him beneath himself to shatter him, while he threw himself above the ground above him, and thus Nessie was slain. Through the body of the son of Fergus, and there had been slaughter throughout the fair green, so that none escaped who did not fall by the points of spears or by the edge of sword. And Deirdre was brought to Concobar to be his power, and her arms were bound behind her back. Now the sureties had remained behind her that what had been done, that is, Fergus and Domra and Cormac. Thereupon they came, and they forthwith performed great deeds. Dodric slew one of the thrust of his spear, Man son of Concobar and Phaedra son of Combra, and Concobar's daughter, and Fergus struck down Tirgin son of Tarkarin. And his brother in Concobar was wrathful at this, and a fight took place, so that upon the day 300 of the men of Ulster fell. And Doris slew the maidens of Ulster. And ere the day dawned, Fergus and Ammon set Ammon on fire. And then they were away in exile, and betook them to the land of Concrec, and they found shelter with El and Mav, for they knew that the royal pair would give them welcome. To the Ulstermen Ulster showed no love. 3,000 stout men went with them, and for 16 years never did they allow cries of lamentation and of fear among the Ulstermen to cease. Each night their vengeful forays ceased men to quake and to wail. Deirdre lived on for a year in the house of Concobar, and during all the time she smiled not a smile of laughter, and she took not the sufficiency of food or sleep. She was raised not her head from her knee, and if anyone brought for her entertainers, she used to speak thus: "Thou troops brave and far to sea, may return home, and ye await them. When Osher's sons come home to me in Alba, they come more heroically. With abundant of mead my Nessie stood, and far of fire I bathed and poured. And Alice struck back wood, and Adrin's an ox of or a greatly bore. Though they'll think the mead sweet that the warrior Concobar drinks, and often have known a sweeter drink, often on the edge of that spring. Our board was spared beneath a tree, and Nessie kindled the cooking fire. Meat prepared from Nessie's game was more sweet to me than honey. Though well our home may blow music, though steadily our pipes may sound, I say, without fear, that I know well I have often heard sweeter strain. The horns and pipes sound clear, though Concobar's mind rejoices in these. The more magic strain, more sweet, more dear, more voices the son of ocean, like the sound of a wave Ness's bass rolled. And we heard him long, he sang so sweet. And Aiden's voice took the middle place, and Aiden's tenor rang clear. Now Nessie lies in his tomb, a poor guard his friends gave. They poured his cup of doom, the poisoned cup which caused his death. Ah, dear far lands of brethren, thy men are proud, though the hills are barren. Oh, then today I do not rise there, to wait the return of Eshen's son. That one firm just made love, the dear sky yet, proud youth. That loved to pass him through woods, and to grind up my dress, and run with him on the morn. When bent on foes, those dear grey eyes, the maids adored bored ill. When spent with toil, he lay still. Through the dark woods his voice soared. For this cause no more I sleep, no more I strain my nails with pink. No joy can bleak watch I keep, for the Ulsterman's son come not again. For half the night no sleep I find, no bed can beguile me to rest. My mind wanders among the crowds of thoughts. I find no time to eat or smile. No time for joy is left from me. In the proud array of Erin in the east of Ireland, for glorious house and garments gay, there can ne'er be peace nor joy, nor rest. Whom dost thou hate? That must, said Concobar, of these whom thou now seest. Thee thyself, she answered, and with thee Ergen, son of Deirdre. Then thou shalt live with Ergen for a year. And he gave Deirdre over to Ergen's hand. Now upon the moor they went across the fair green of Macha, and Deirdre stood behind Ergen in the chariot. And the two husbands who were with her when the two men whom she had sworn never to see together upon the earth, she looked upon them. Ha, Deirdre, said Concobar, it is the same glance that you gives between the two rams, and the scarce now between me and Ergon. Now there was a great rock stone in front of them, and Deirdre struck her head upon the stone, and she hard enough to shatter her head, and so she died. This then is the tale of Exile, the son of Usnech, and of the exile of Fergus, and the death of Deirdre.